Hi, this is Brandon Smiley from thirstgym.com. Today we're talking about exercise called the hex bar deadlift off blocks or mats, or you might see this called like an elevated deadlift. This is a deadlift variation that's designed to limit range of motion, and that can be for a number of reasons. Primarily what we do with our athletes when we elevate it, we're either trying to overload the system, so we're able to get heavier weight in the athlete's hands than they would normally be able to lift, or we're trying to limit range of motion for a particular reason for that athlete, whether that be injury history, time of year and season, and we're just trying to prevent some extra strain on the low back. We've had some pretty good success with this for our very tall athletes. So usually the number one reason you're probably going to elevate the weight, at least from an athletic population standpoint, is their hamstring mobility has some issues with them getting all the way down because they're really tall and the levels aren't necessarily conducive to them. So what's nice is it lets us still train the hinge pattern. We can push the hips back. We can still load the glutes and hamstrings. We can still push to the floor, work on creating rate of force development for that particular athlete. But we're going to put them in a safer position from a long-term perspective. And then we can try to bring that block or that height down as mobility and strength improve for that particular athlete. So I've got some blocks here that we've just built on our own, and using the high handles, this is really, really high for me. I would personally never pull from blocks as high, but we do have athletes in here that are almost 6'6", and they do need something like this at times when they get to learning how to deadlift because their range of motion is just so big compared to the average person. So I've got them elevated on blocks here, and everything else stays the same. We're just going to have a shorter range of motion, so I keep my chest tall, hips go back, arms go down, reach good and long, feel my whole foot into the floor, grab those handles hard, stand, and back. So an average athlete is probably going to actually make them look like this. I'm going to take this bar and flip it over and use the low handles, and that's probably going to make it look a little more natural compared to what our athletes would see compared to someone short like me. Same thing, chest tall, hips go back, arms are long, grab the handles, feel my whole foot. Notice that my hands are about at knee level, a little lower. I think that's a really good position for most athletes where they can get into, but it's going to be able to let you create some leg drive and help load the glutes and hamstrings. So here, tall. And then you would just load it up as much as you need to based on what you're training. So with the block pulls, we're usually doing 3s and 5s. That's about it. We definitely don't train the deadlift for high reps in our facility. But I'm also probably not going to ask my athletes to hit hard singles and doubles unless if I feel like we're in season and we just need to get up to a moderate single and shut it down. 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 sets. Between 3 and 5, you're definitely good between the time of year. Again, it's something you can definitely load up. Your athletes are going to be able to get heavy, so definitely ensure they're keeping their pelvis and spine, everything's good and neutral. They're not overextended. They're not bringing their butt through. They're not rounded. They're not getting on their toes. Their knees aren't coming forward as they go to grab down. Really make sure they got that hinge pattern down before you bring them over here and have them start pulling. We make all of our kids learn how to RDL properly before we bring them over to deadlift, regardless of what their sport is, just so that we can make sure their glutes and hamstrings and hinge pattern is good and solid and strong, and we bring them here. It usually clicks and there's usually no problem. So there's another deadlift variation. Lots of reasons why you may use this. For us, it's usually mobility and safety concerns, or we work with a really tall athlete, which again usually has some of those problems. And then this just gives the ability to train a movement pattern in a safe, effective manner. And then we dwindle them down over the course of our career that we work with them. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section. Thanks. Have a great day.